بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على المصطفى الأمين وكل من تبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما نافعا آمين يا رب العالمين. I'm very happy to participate on the first national conference on teaching foreign cultures in the Algerian context, perceptions and practices, which is organized by Khenchla University. First of all, my thanks go to the conference organizer, the conference committee, and all persons who participated in making the conference true. I'm going to participate with a paper which is entitled Teaching English Through an Intercultural Approach in the Algerian Context by taking first year master students who are specialized in the field of literature and civilization as a case in point. We all know that intercultural competence has become an important goal of foreign language education in response to the need for learners to function effectively in a multicultural world. Language and culture are seen as interwoven and inseparable components, and therefore, learning a foreign language means learning about other ways of being and behaving. Many foreign programs around the world, particularly in North America, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, have adopted an intercultural approach which seeks to integrate into the language teaching experience opportunities for developing intercultural competence for language learners. And it is therefore impossible to learn a foreign language without engaging with its culture. And of course, intercultural competence has become an important goal of foreign language teaching and learning that emphasizes the interdependence of language and culture and the importance of intercultural understanding. The main aim behind selecting the topic mainly in the field of civilization is that I have supervised students in the field and I found that they are not motivated to work in the field, although they are trained through a set of modules such as cultural studies. Although teachers use the intercultural approach in teaching modules in civilization, the focus is still on history rather than the cultural components of the target language. And henceforth, the focal aim of this research paper is to explore the main constraints facing the integration of culture and the intercultural competence in teaching civilization. To solve the research problem and reach the aim of the study, the following research questions are set as follows. Why does the teaching of civilization do not reflect in the intercultural approach to language teaching and learning? How can we teach civilization according to the requirements of the intercultural approach? As far as the research methods are concerned, so we have selected two questionnaires. First one was designed for master students who are specialized in the field of literature civilization. And we have selected 46 students. And the second questionnaire was administered to 7 teachers who are specialized in the field of civilization. And hence, the data is descriptive in nature since we have used two questionnaires and it was gathered this year during the first semester. Now we move on to the analysis of the findings, starting with the students' questionnaire, and we have selected the most important questions in relation to the research questions. So, as you can see, the first question. So, here we have found that 91% of the students claim that they have acquired language skills rather than cultural skills. Move on to the second question. So, students were asked about the reasons for selecting to study civilization, and we have found that 77% answered that they selected to study civilization to have the background on British and American civilization and history. Move on to the third question. So, the findings according to this question showed that 66% of the students found the programs difficult, too long, and focus on history rather than introducing the components of the British American culture and civilization. We move on to the fourth question. So most of the students claimed that they found the programs not interesting, and through the analysis, we found that most of students prefer literature modules since the specialty is literature and civilization, and they also prefer to graduate in literature rather than in civilization. Now we move on to the last question from the students' questionnaire. To check why students found the programs not interesting, we explore the reasons. So these reasons were limited to the content, the teaching methods, and the syllabi. And it was found that they found the content boring. Besides, 43% of the students claimed that the way of teaching plays a role in motivating them. Now we move on to teachers' questionnaire. And we have found that, of course, we asked teachers if they were trained on how to teach civilization or not. And most of the teachers had a magister degree in civilization, and they claimed that they didn't receive any training as far as the pedagogy of civilization is concerned after their magister degree. And they added that here they didn't even receive any training on how to include culture in teaching civilization. We move on to the second question. So through this question, teachers complained about the time allocated for teaching modules of civilization, and they claim that it becomes very hard to cover all the cultural aspects of the British and American people, especially within the LMD system. And teachers tend to skip many events that are, according to them, very important and interesting as they are related to other lessons. We move on to the following question. So, according to this question, the teachers believe that the programs of civilization is historical rather than cultural, and they justify that it is due to the teaching practices. Most of teachers claim that it is important to adopt the intercultural approach in teaching civilization for all levels, not only for those who are specialized in the field of civilization. We move on now to the discussion of the main findings, and we have limited our findings to the most important points, as you can see here. We have found that the content is mainly limited to history rather than culture or the culture components of the target language. Students find the programs less interesting and less motivating due to the way of teaching. Henceforth, they share negative attitudes towards studying civilization modules. And finally, we have also found that there is a lack of teachers training in the field of intercultural communication. We move on now to some recommendations that we have suggested. We can say that much importance should be given to teaching the cultural components of the target language, and teachers should expect the learning outcomes from the programs taking into account knowledge, skills, attitudes of the learner. And teachers should decide upon a particular teaching method not only when analyzing some internal and external factors that influence here or her teaching. These require, in fact, taking into account time involved, the availability of aids and overcrowded classrooms, the students' ability and motivation, and of course, the teaching materials. Presenting the appropriate teaching strategies, for example, the use of intercultural teaching and learning means providing learners with the skills that enable them to be able to interact and interact with other cultures and with the ability to evaluate and criticize perspectives. Raising students' awareness about the cultural role in language proficiency and other recommendations can be limited to teachers should use visual aids, teachers should check the content of the modules and update the modules, selecting the appropriate teaching methods according to the learner's needs and motivations. In the end, we can say that, or we can conclude that there are a number of difficulties facing the integration of culture as an important component in teaching civilization for first year master students, specialty of literature and civilization, and these difficulties are summarized as follows. Inadequacy of teaching content because it is mainly historical and lacks too many cultural aspects. Students' negative attitudes towards the programs of civilization, lack of adequate training, teachers' training in the field of intercultural education, inadequacy of teaching methods and techniques, overcrowded classrooms because of the large number of students. And so this is an overview of how this research topic about how this research topic is explored and the findings. In fact, the findings can't be generalized to all Algerian universities. However, it can be taken as a roadmap for further research. And in the end, thank you very much for your considerable attention.